We are live.
All right, man. So we're gonna start off this first podcast, and so Chad and I just thought about doing this for quite a while, but never really pulled the trigger until today. So frequently, Chad and I will call each other while we work and just have these kind of conversations. And we just decided that it'd be really cool if we just recorded it and put it up on a podcast. And so, what I really wanted to talk to Chad about today was, we had a lot of hopes and dreams when he bought 20 acres. And I kind of wanted to revisit some of those dreams that we had. And because we were so hyped, whenever Chad officially bought the land and we were able to start playing on it. So, Chad, do you want to go through just a couple things right off the top of your head of things that you wanted to do immediately when you took ownership of the land? And why
Sure.
don't you kind of also too talk about the land, talk about the layout. Let's give the people, we know what the land looks like, but let's try to explain, the land first and the layout.
Okay, yeah. So we've had the land about 13 months now. We bought it last November. The leaves had already fallen off. It was too close to deer season to properly hunt, though we did try multiple times. I had the idea of having what Chase and I grew up with when we were growing up and sharing that with our own children. It's just different when you've got fresh air breathing, trees to look at, and never knowing what's behind that tree line. Is there a deer going to be back there? Is it a coyote? And what's nice about the land is we've got about a 30-foot long, 8-foot wide cabin that's got gas heat, a gas stove, a couple beds, a couch, and a hand built table that we eat around. And it's just nice to go out there to kind of escape suburbia and
I think that's a great point. So Chad and I both live in suburbia. What I'll call, your neighbors could have nicer cars than you, and I'm not just your neighbors, but your neighbors' kids could have nicer cars than you. And so for Chad, in this land, I just want to paint the picture a little even more. It's about 40 minutes away from me and probably less than, 30 for Chad. And you're driving, I'll call it west, and you're just driving and driving, and you're on some highways, and then you get to some country roads, and you're driving through these, and I know you guys have all seen it, whether it be a road trip or not. You're weaving through these roads, and you're looking into these neighbors' yards that got tractors and plows and rusted trucks, and it's just something out of a movie or like American Pickers. You're driving deep into the wilderness, and as you go, you're getting more elevation, you're getting taller trees, thicker trees. The cars aren't as nice, but the people are. And I think that's what's so cool. And so eventually, at least for me, it's about 40 minutes away. I get to his road, and this is a dead-end road that I'll say spans probably a little more than a mile, less than 2. And you're going down this road, and it's all gravel. And there's a sign about a quarter way in that says, "This road is not maintained by the city."
Right, low maintenance road.
Low maintenance, that's right.
And what
And
they mean
so,
by that is after that sign, the gravel stops. It turns into, I'll say, bedrock,
yeah,
and you've got the big old stones in the middle of the road. You've got washout. You've got dirt and mud and everything you can imagine because there is nothing past that sign as far as residential housing other than our cabin. It is nothing but woods and trees and pastures and cornfields. for the remainder of the time for, about a mile and a half is what I measured.
Yeah, and it feels like 10 miles because the terrain can be so rough or slick depending on if it rained the last couple of days. That you really do have to take it at a lower speed and four-wheel drive every time. So you're going through these tight, I'll call it a driveway, right? Because there's only a couple houses on this road, and they're very much closer to the road itself that goes perpendicular. So, you've got a half mile of just nothing but trees and bedrock to get to the cabin. And so, you pull up to the cabin, you see the cabin, and there's just a little clearing. And then I think we looked at Google Maps one time, and right after this clearing where the cabin and the shop is, there's about a 500 feet drop in elevation where there's this huge ravine, and a creek runs through it. So
Yeah, it's one of the largest creeks that would have been better called a river. There's multiple springs along this creek bed where fresh water will flow, including a spring on the property on the far west side of it. And so our 20 acres is more of a rectangle than a square. So it is wider. It is more east and west wide than it is north and south long. But it actually works with the terrain, with the layout of the creek, what trees have been cleared, and like Chase mentioned, our cabin and our shed where we keep our toys, like our four-wheelers or tractors and stuff, is actually only about 10% of the total property. The rest is just trees, this creek bed, where you can really get lost. You go down to the creek bed, you look back up to where you came from, and there's 40-foot high creek sides, creek walls.
Yeah, it's quite scary, honestly. I think, and that was going back to my original question. One of the things we wanted to clear up was, and we need to be able to see more, because when you're at the bottom of this creek bed, I'll say, and you're looking straight up, and all you can see is trees, and you can't see really farther than, I'll say, 50 yards, because there's so many trees staggered in it, sometimes brush, underbrush. One of our first goals was really to clear up some of that stuff to give more channels for deer or other wildlife to channel in.
Yeah, there's about 2 acres dead center in the rectangle of our property that acts as a bedding area for some of the local deer population. I've stuck a trail cam in there, and I've caught does with their fawns in there, but as of recently, there's been a couple coyotes that have found their way in there, scaring off our baby deer and their mommies. So I totally think we should clear it out a little bit more. If nothing better than to wait for those stalking coyotes coming and scaring off our deer population.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. And honestly, if some of you landowners out there know or have experienced any of it, I don't know, my brother and I are always open to criticism or advice or concerns that you guys may have. So drop a comment down below. Let us know what you guys did or what you think we should do, because we grew up on land, but it was our parents' land, and they really did a lot of the work before us. So we're learning a lot of this on our own.
And speaking of, not our land, there's always a sense of, am I going to step on their toes if I decide to do X, Y, and Z? Like, obviously on our parents' land, they had a raccoon problem. They had rodent problems. They still complain almost weekly about ground moles that are, unearthing their backyard. So one of the things I got into this summer was trapping using dog-proof traps. So the little, soda cans that have a trigger that's non-lethal that will trap the rodents in their arm. And what I've done is I bait them with cat food. So here at home we have 2 cats, and I'll just take a handful of their cat food, put it in a Ziploc baggie, and when I'm out at the land, I'll check the traps, and if I need to refill it or top it off or sprinkle some around to kind of bait in these rodents, that's exactly what I do. And we've got a cellular trail cam pointed right at the traps that when we catch something, I know I've got to go out there and dispose of.
And that cellular trail cam, if you guys don't have that, that is well worth the investment. I mean, even just having one to see kind of what's going on, all the nature around you sent to your phone, invaluable. But back to your trapping, I had never done or experienced any kind of trapping, and you've had quite a bit of success with these traps that you've been using. How much have you caught now?
So in less than 6 months of my trapping experience, I've got about 4 raccoons and 5 possums.
Man, you need to start, skinning them and wearing some hats around, trying to scare off some of that other possums and raccoons.
Now, let me tell you a story. I haven't told you this one yet, Chase. For Christmas, we went down to see my wife's family down in the middle of nowhere, Missouri. And they have a huge raccoon population. And I volunteered to bring these dog-proof traps. And they agreed. So the first day we get down there, I go into the woods where they've been catching these raccoons that must be 30, 35 pounds big. And I set my traps. And I've got them staked down. I've got, the cat food that I've been baiting them with. And I guess this is the difference between Kansas and Missouri raccoons, is the first night after setting those traps, the raccoons come, kind of pick around the traps, but leave the traps alone. I always put some on the outside to kind of goad them in, bait them closer. So the next day I put out a little bit more cat food. I even put a little bit more in the traps. And that night, a raccoon comes, gets caught. And I only know this because I'm checking the trail cam the next morning that was pointing at him. But when I go to the spot where the trail cam was pointing, there was no trap and no raccoon. So I ran back to the house, stuck the SD card into the reader, and we're looking at the pictures. We caught the raccoon, and it was stuck. Then here comes another raccoon, looks at that raccoon who's stuck, and I would undoubtedly say crying because, their arm's stuck. And that raccoon pulls up 2, I'll say 8-inch stakes out of the earth and the trap that's also staked into the earth, freeing that raccoon. And then you see it kind of limp off like a pirate with a peg leg away from where the trail cam was.
That is unreal.
So this raccoon that freed the other one was humongous. It must have been closer to 40 pounds. It was as big as I've seen in the 6 months I've been doing this trapping.
That is one big raccoon. I'm still laughing because I just imagine some raccoon walking in the woods with a trap with stakes around him.
Yeah, stakes in this pop can sized trap around its right arm. Just kind of ka-thunk, ka-thunk, ka-thunk.
Well, dude, that's crazy, man. Ugh. I didn't know they got that big. I really didn't.
I didn't either until I would say the first raccoon I caught was as big around as my 4-year-old son.
Oh, man, I love it. So we want to take care of some of those rodents. We also have, dreamed of, my brother and I are big into shooting and that kind of stuff. So we want to do, some kind of outdoor range, whether that include pistol, rifle, and maybe, trap shooting thrower for our shotguns. Also include a bow range. We want to get, one of those deer decoys that you can shoot your bow and arrows in.
Yeah, I want to get experience with 3D archery, with the realistic looking targets, with the little foam inserts that you can replace when you get them shot up.
Yeah, Yeah, from different angles. So, shooting at them in our tree stands, in our redneck blind, basically anywhere and everywhere to just get better at the different angles. So I was shooting at a 3D place here close by my house, and the guy really talked about, the three different axes of a bow. So you have your left to right. And when I say left to right, think of it as you putting a construction level up on a picture. And so, much like that picture, leaning left to right, you can also lean your bow left to right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that axis alone was an axis I never accounted for. And I had seen the levels on my bow before, but if you're in a tree stand and you're looking at your target and you torque your body a certain way, that third axis could be completely off, throwing that arrow, coincidentally, that off too, and in the direction of where you're leaning. And so not only do you have up and down, you have left to right, and then you have that third axis of, is my bow straight up and down like a picture should be?
Right. Yeah. That's something that I've been working with. So the sight I've got has just a horizontal bubble level, I'll say. So I've got my pins, and once I've got my pin where I'm aiming at and where I want to hit, I then take a glance down at that bubble and make sure that it's dead center, because archery is a game of inches, and
Yeah.
if something's going to swing your arrow a direction you don't want it to go to, like this third axis, then you've got to pay special attention, because while it may not be too drastic at 20 yards, you're going to notice it at 30, and you're definitely going to notice it at 40.
Yeah, I think I missed my first couple deer when I started bow hunting because of that. I really do. I think, when you're in a tree stand or a blind all day and you're sitting down, you're not in tune with your body. You're cold, you're shaking, whatever it may be. So
Don't
I
forget,
actually chalked up my first couple of years of not practicing enough, but really not practicing like you hunt and checking that level every time you shoot it.
yeah, you're talking all the elements that affect your shot when you're hunting. Don't forget buck fever, man. That thing still gets me.
Every time. And with the bow, it's almost like it doesn't matter if it's a doe or not. You're getting close enough for 20, 30 yards. That animal is about the size of you. You're going to start to get that heart pumping a little bit more than if you had a 30-06 or a 300 Win Mag and you're just looking at it, a small little doe from 100 yards. So definitely a difference, at least for me, with bows.
Now, does the bow you have, does it have a vertical level?
No, I don't. So to me, vertical, right, would just be your distance, right? That would be your pins.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of like the airplane planes or axes too, where you've got pitch, yaw, and roll.
Oh, nice, dude.
So, for proper, flight, you've got to balance all those. I'm going to take a quick look.
Speaking of bows, now that we're close to wrapping up season, don't forget to use your bow wax. I know that's something we're really trying to get better at using. So
Yeah, in fact, thank you for reminding me. I need to get mine out and go and do that, because over the weekend I was shooting down at my wife's family's land, and I noticed a few frayed strands on my string. So immediately I'm like, I need to do that. And I'd actually accidentally taken it out during deer season when I was hunting with the bow, because I didn't want it freezing in my backpack. So I've got it, stored in my basement. It's climate controlled, but I need to wax my string.
Yeah, I actually have my bow in my garage, and it's in a good quality case. But I still don't want it exposed to, our harsh winters here in Kansas, because our garage gets as cold as outside. So it's that's a note for me as well.
But
All right, man.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So going back, a little bit to the land and, some of the things that we dreamed of doing, guys, if you have land, enjoy doing stuff, let us know in the comments. We do check those. But Chad, is there any other activities or things you want to go to on this first podcast?
No. Sometimes I do want to talk about wildlife management versus land management and what exactly that means. What kind of techniques can you alter your terrain to allow a larger population of the wildlife you're attracting, whether that be rabbits, having some cut timber and some bush type foliage around certain parts of your land. I'm particularly interested in talking about what kind of wildlife or what kind of terrain do white-tailed deer like in the Midwest. So yeah, I think that'd be a topic for next time.
No, that's a great idea, man. All right, well, I'll call you next time and we'll have to do this.